All 9 o'clock, call the meeting in order, stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Need a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
Motion and second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The board meeting minutes from the. I guess I didn't want to, I couldn't approve them next week, can't we? Yeah.
Well, I don't. We're here enough to pass them, I would say. There is a few missing people in the crowd. Like I don't see Scott Keeberg.
Oh, that was for the work session?
Yes,
Yeah.
so it really doesn't matter.
Oh. I tried to capture everybody that was here for the official board meeting, so if I did miss somebody, please let me know, but I
That's the only one I'm
cross-referenced
seeing
with the
it.
video.
No, we'll approve the meeting, the minutes of the next meeting. Commissioner Ken Johnson. Sure. Would you like to come forward, Jim, in case there's questions or? Yeah, sure. This is a follow-up, obviously, to the cable HRA levy request to the agenda states. I would like to draw our attention, excuse me, to one of the motions and the votes we had. Mr. Standish asked us if what he presented us satisfied a budget. And I believe we related it or compared it to the statute in question. I thought about that because I voted for it. In the absence of ever going through this process for the HRA and for what Jim had presented, many pages, I don't know if there would have been any other probably answer to his question. Does this satisfy the requirements of the statute for a budget? That my feeling was, since we haven't had a policy and we've never done this before, to say no and to ask HRA or Jim to come with more data, I don't think would have been fruitful in by any means. However, I think if you take a look and study what was presented, it fairly depicts a historical snapshot of the HRA. Somewhat like a balance. And so a historical snapshot from a financial standpoint really doesn't say satisfy, but probably doesn't rise to the level of a budget. However, at our December 3rd meeting, Mr. Standish did present, which we have the research from the data request from a taxpayer, which I think somewhat closely resembles the budget. Even if he says the HRA does not maintain a budget, they have a budget for each of the projects. And this was talked about at our last meeting. I think it's fairly important that of the 7 items, the reason for the 2025 levy increase to $200,000, items 4 through 7, and I'm going to repeat them because they were talked about at the last meeting, and I think it's important that it says number 4, remodeling the HRA current office. furniture and miscellaneous expenses associated with the remodel of the new office. Maintaining their new office, utilities, grounds maintenance, new storage space, $100,000. My position was at the last meeting that the levy was increased to $200,000. And based on that answer to the data request, Mr. Standish to me demonstrated the reason to raise it to $200,000 was items 4 through 7, which have been completed. And for that reason, I think the $100,000 is a fair amount, even if that's more than it has been historically. And with that, guess I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Well, just to be clear, we were 200,000 last year
Is this year?
and this year too.
No, just 2025.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Which was approved.
Correct.
And Mr. Chair, if I can chat a little bit here, there was a motion by Dwight and I and carried clarifying the HRA budget information provided was sufficient for the necessary review. And we did vote for it. But the discussion was to establish a policy requiring any entity, organization to show up, which statute shows, and I got a copy of the statute, that we would have to have requested that before August 1st from you. So, in my opinion, we're probably, we're past the statutory time frame for the request, but you were front and center with it and showed just exactly what was going on.
But you got anything else?
So let me ask you, Bill, you referenced the motion. Back to that discussion, are you referenced the motion when it was stated that that included the $200,000 or just that there was a motion?
There was a motion made by Dwight and I carried to clarify the HRA budget information provided was sufficient for the necessary review. And we plugged it in September for a preliminary. So to review that back, I have to believe that we've looked over the information and it was thorough enough that we made that decision to keep it to 200 for 26.
So back to my question, are you stating that your motion and second included the number of 200?
Didn't have the number, it was sufficient for the necessary review. And being that we've added into the preliminary, the 200,000. And there wasn't, and we've done that already, and we would have had to have requested that information before August 1st. If we were gonna critique, in my opinion, moving forward, if we were gonna change things or critique it or, give it a little different direction or anything like that. So that should have been before the preliminary.
Well, based on my conversation with Justin Anderson, it says that the county has the final say on the levy based on the information that HRA presented. I don't believe the lack of policy and the lack of an August 1st date trumps the statute that says we have the say based on the budget.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
so the last meeting, there was why are we following statute? Well, it's the law. We've taken an oath to follow the law. I mean, Dwight, what do you think of that? I mean, you've taken that oath way more than any of us, right?
Probably.
We gotta uphold the law. Yes, August 1st, we should have had a request in for a budget. After I reviewed what was presented, I went and talked to Mr. Standish, and whether I agree with the $200,000 or not is not really the point. Our conversation led me to believe that there will be expenses in the amount of $200,000 that are levy. I don't know if I want to say eligible, but I mean, if between salary, insurance, replacement of utility ovens, refrigerators. I have nothing to say that that amount is incorrect. We talked about having a budget layout that, to me, would be easier to go through, and that's something we'll have to do for next year. So I don't, especially with that August first date, we should have asked for all this. This should have been done way before December.
I agree.
I make a motion that we levy $100,000 for the HRA.
We got a motion, we get a second? Do we get a second? Do we get a second? All second, so if there's any more discussion, we'll discuss it, otherwise we'll vote.
I'd like to add in reference to, their, financial statement for December 31st, 2024, that they do have unrestricted cash and investments of $1,355,000. Like I stated at the last meeting, the HRA has a lot of money. I don't think anywhere it's been demonstrated, and I guess what I'd like to have, if Troy Johnson heard something from Mr. Standish that compares with the 7 items where he specifically asked for the extra $100,000 for new storage that is completed, then I'd like to hear from Mr. Standish where those $100,000 extras are. Or from you, Mr. Johnson.
Well, I believe I mentioned it, that there have not been replacing. They had kept their budget lower. And they need to replace ovens, refrigerators, there's gonna be furnaces, I mean, all of that stuff, you add up into all of those units, it adds up really quick. That was from sitting down and having a conversation with them.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
okay, where are we at here? Do we have a second?
Yeah, we're doing discussion.
Okay, so it's discussion. Okay, can I say something?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think, you know, today's weather is a prime example of, HRA. They're kicking out money for snow removal this year. And I know a little bit about that because I work for the guy that does the plowing in Ashby, and it's gonna be substantial. There's these buildings, I'm in them, they need things done to them. If they fall into the category where HRA can repair them. There's expenses, so what I'm thinking, like with Troy, is that next year, we're gonna be working on this way earlier. But for this year, I'm gonna go for the 200,000. There's a lot of expenses here, and a lot of things have happened with HRA the last 2-3 years here that are, you know, we're getting there with the getting situated and stuff, but there's been a lot of expenses, so that's where I'm at.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I'd like to draw the attention to page 1 and 2 of what Mr. handed out, which is the public housing budget. And if you look under the page 2 of 2026, under extraordinary maintenance, he's got $40,000, which is $2,000 more than the prior year. Under equipment replace, he's got $20,000, which is $12,000 more than last year, and the same as the year before. We've got equipment additions of $5,000. We've got betterments and additions, $10,000, and capital improvements, which is probably the North Star Manor, 312. He has in his budget, stated on page 2, items that are very similar to the historical data he presented Troy that's not accurate. It's right here.
The chair,
Go ahead.
can I answer that?
Yep.
Your reference to this page number 2 in public housing. The levy money has nothing to do with this. We do not put any county levy money into this project. This is a federal project, it's public housing as a standalone. And the earlier comment that we have a lot of money,
most of that money that you're referring to is public housing money, and that's restricted and dedicated only to public housing. What we're asking for is county levy funds to replace equipment, maintenance for the non-federal projects. As an example, Marshfield, apartments in Ashby, Heritage Square in Elbow Lake, Morningside in Hoffman, and Ashby #1 in Ashby. Levy funds do not go into the federal programs as you're referring to on page number 2.
Good, add something, Mr. Chair. I draw you to page 13, under public housing. Unrestricted, $632,334. Unrestricted. Now, you said restricted. Now, I guess the question is, and I can go across the line, which we did last meeting. Jim, every line item except market rate of rentals, and you answered that. The point is, if you go across, you have $1,063,000 in unrestricted money in your audit. So when you say it's restricted, why has your audit put it unrestricted?
Not to get it confusing, it's unrestricted within the public housing project. Does not mean, when it says unrestricted, it does not mean we can use those funds for other projects.
So then, why is there a restricted line?
Because there's certain items that we have to spend on within that project, which means it's restricted.
So the definition of restricted and unrestricted changes based on your,
Within the confines of its own project, yes, it can.
it
By
challenges.
regulation, let's take public housing. By regulation of the federal government of HUD, some funds, yes, are restricted for certain purposes within public housing. There are certain funds that are unrestricted that the HRA can use within the public housing project that are not restricted by the restrictions and regulations of public housing. But irregardless, restricted or unrestricted, it has to stay within public housing. And again, the levy funds we're asking for cannot and will not be used in public housing.
Mr. Chair, I'll go back to my statement that the reason the HRA asked for $200,000 was specifically stated in items 4 through 7, which was part of our December 3rd meeting. And $100,000 of it was for new storage space. The historical information, and it can be spun any way you want, but if you look at the audit, if you look at what's presented, the historical information does not support that extra 100. The 100 was for specific items in the new office. You can't spin history.
Anybody got anything else?
I do, Mr. Chair, I've got a copy of from the revisor that I've got in the area office that states this is, and it's highlighted here, and I'm gonna submit this, and then Tina can rifle it out to all of us. The authority each year formulate and file a budget in accordance with the budget procedure of the city in the same manner as required of executive departments of cities, or if no budget are required to be filed by August 1st, the amount of tax levy for the following year shall be based on that budget. So moving forward, I'm gonna submit this, and you guys can get a copy of this. You got all good points. But August 1st. So this should have been come up, and we should have been ahead of it, and it's our fault as a county board, in my opinion, that we shouldn't have looked into that. We should have looked into this to the degree. So we made sure you guys were here in the time frame that you needed to be here. So we're past that time frame. We've set the preliminary. We need to move on.
So, Mr. Johnson, Commissioner, would you restate your comment about following the law?
Which part?
Well, you said we have statute and we have to follow the law,
Yeah.
so I don't think Bill's comment from statute.
What do you mean, Tommy? He was reading the statute, I believe.
Yes,
He was referencing that this is a new point and it's not an issue, because we don't have a policy and.
no, this is statute.
Well, yeah, we should have, if we're gonna require a budget, the way I read it, and I'm not a lawyer, we needed to request that budget by August first.
That's correct. And have a policy in place to do that.
The lack of policy does not trump the statute.
Right. We should have asked for the budget by August first and we didn't, so he is under no obligation, in my opinion, to provide a budget.
Like I said,
Historically, we did not know better, so we were not doing better. Now that we know of this statute, we need to follow it.
the county has final say on the levy based upon the information the HRA presented.
I don't disagree, and like I said, I went and talked to Mr. Standish between the last meeting and today, and during our conversation, whether I like the $200,000 amount or not, to me, that amount can be justified.
Call for the question, Mr. Chair, if you would.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Bill?
Can we have the motion read back to us so we know exactly what?
Okay,
A motion was made by Ken Johnson, seconded by Doyle Spear, to levy $100,000 for HRA for 2026.
everybody got that? Okay, Bill,
No,
Ken,
Yes,
Dwight,
No,
Troy,
No.
Doyle, no.
Well, what was your vote?
No. So what was the tally?
Roll call vote, Bill Valley, no. Ken Johnson, yes. Dwight Albatney, no. Troy Johnson, no. Doyle Spear, no.
Okay, motion fails.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we levy $200,000 for HRA.
second,
Motion is second. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
aye,
Aye. Opposed?
I,
Carried.
Thank you.
but you'll be ready next year, I would presume, right, because you'll be still up there. So when we
My,
get to
my understanding in this conversation and the conversation with Troy that next year, not only just the HRA, but there's a plan, a potential plan to have a protocol procedure for all departments to prepare the budget. Is that,
I would very much like to have a procedure in place that anyone who requests money that goes onto the levy, whether it's Humane Society, Historical Society, HR, everybody follows the same process. We can lay out a budget template so that the information we're looking for is right there, nice and easy to see. We can just standardize everything, makes everybody's life easier.
and I'm in total agreement with that.
and I'll reference the comment Mr. Johnson said at a prior meeting. We had policy that relates to the appointment of board members for HRA and we never followed it. So it will be the same.
Let's look back on who voted to follow our policy and who didn't.
Sure.
Will it be the same? You voted to bypass the policy. Don't ask me that question. I voted for it. Do you have an answer for that? No.
Okay, we'll move on. Closed session for negotiations.
I'll make a motion to close the session per whatever the statute actually reads.
Minnesota State 3D.03 subdivision 1B.
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
The motion and second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
You didn't buy in some trees too.
So what? I didn't hear that.
And then you wanna.
You didn't need to
to.
start your campaign pretty early. Last meeting. Because I was on the phone talking.
Yeah. I can just buy.
It's just me, I know, yeah.
And you're pacing.
I, well, yeah, I always pace when I. I wish I'd have known that.
This was.
Nobody's
This is-
Doyle.
I will make a motion to open back up.
Second.
Motion second, to open this back up, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed, carried.
All right, so I am here to get, the Teamsters agreement, the TEA items, agreed upon, and the contract agreed upon contingent on the review. So I'm gonna go over all of the agreed upon items between, the negotiation committee and the, union. So the first one is insurance. The employer contribution would be single $950 a month, family $2,000 a month. HSA would remain the same, single at $50 a month, family at $125. Employees hired before January 1, 2024, who have coverage with proof of other group insurance shall receive cash in lieu at $850 a month, even if employee makes an insurance change. Employees hired after January 1, 2024 will not be eligible to receive cash in lieu. Rate of pay for the implementation of wages, adding 3% to the employees' 12/31/2025 rate of pay, using that wage to place them on the new scale in the closest step of their assigned grade. The duration would be a 3-year contract, so 27 would be 3.5%, 28 would be the 3.5%. Health insurance language would be added to the contract with the opt-out language added to give the group the ability to join the Teamsters insurance after discussing with the county prior to discuss employer contributions and cash flow. Working out of class, adding language to the contract that outlines the discussion that must happen between the union and the county if an employee is working out of class for a period of time. Compensation will be discussed. The work week, if an employee is required to work over 8 hours, they would accrue overtime. Uniform allowance, we would allow $125 annually for uniform allowance. It was purchased 2 times a year, the fall and the spring, and there would have to be a system in place to track that. Minnesota paid leave would be a 50-50 split, and allowing top off. And then cleanup items would be life insurance and long-term disability amounts, getting those updated in the contract to the correct amounts. And then adding or including the 2026, 2027, and 2028 wage scales in the contract.
I will make a motion to approve that.
That was Teamsters. This is Teamsters.
Got a motion, we get a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, motion and second, any more discussion?
I'd just like to say I'm gonna go no because of the overtime calculation. The rest of it I'm supportive of.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
I,
carried.
All right, next, the highway group, I'll go through the items. Insurance, employer contribution, single would be $950 a month, family would be $2,000 a month. HSA remains the same, the employer contribution, single is $50 a month, family is $125 a month. Employees hired before January 1, 2024, who waive coverage with proof of other group insurance shall receive cash in lieu of $850 a month, even if an employee makes an insurance change. Employees hired after January 1, 2024, they will not be received cash in lieu. Rate of pay, the implementation of wages would be adding 3% to the employee's 12/31/2025 rate of pay, using that wage to place them on the new wage scale on the closest step of their assigned grade. The duration of the contract would be a 3-year contract. 2027 would be a 3.5% increase, and 2028 would be a 3.5% increase. Uniform allowance, allow $400, an annual uniform allowance of $400, which does not include steel-toe boots. And there would be a system in place to track that amount throughout the year for purchases. Minnesota paid leave would be a 50-50 split with the allowance of top up. Some housekeeping items would be comp time developing its own article to make it a little more efficient, finding it in the contract. Some updates to the contract with being paid, the paid life insurance and the paid long-term disability insurance, updating those amounts. And then also moving, an article resignation and retirement, moving language 17.2 and 17.3 and to resignation and retirement, and eliminating post-retirement health insurance. And then also including, wage scales for 2026, 2027, and 2028 to that.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second, any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That's all I have, thank you.
With that, we are done, so. Adjourn at 9:52.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Now we're on at one upstairs here, or here?